Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 9. So while we're only 2 weeks or, just 2 episodes into this final season of The Flash, with episode 3 just a few days away from now, we are almost towards the end of this first graphic novel of the season, which of course is this Red Death arc that I think is going to have its doors blown wide open, if you want to put it, in this week's 3rd episode. Now, of course, many already know who the face behind Red Death's mask is, with the music from the end of season, from the end scene of episode 2, most likely giving it away, as it was literally pretty much the theme of the character's show mixed into an evil speedster theme as well. But you would think some backstory and reasoning for what Red Death is doing will potentially be laid out this week, hopefully. But over the past week or so, we got some teasers for not just one part, but both parts of the Red Death finale for this season, which is episodes 4 and 5, entitled The Mask of the Red Death, parts 1 and 2. So in this video, we are going to go over those because they also highlight some stuff with other characters and storylines for this season. And we can also have a little bit of a theory crafting session, if you want to call it, in regards to this Red Death stuff and how it might play out. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below your various thoughts, opinions, theories, predictions, all that stuff. Always curious to read it. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, looking forward to this Red Death finale and how it wraps up this first part of the season, want to drop a like on the video to show support and excitement. So firstly, here is the synopsis or description for The Mask of the Red Death, Part 1. The Flash is forced to make an impossible choice. With the power out in the city, Team Flash calls upon the Rogue Squad to help as Iris is visited by an old friend. Joe and Cecile work on finding a balance. So first up, impossible choice? What is this that the Flash has to make? An impossible choice? And the only thing I can think of is that in the episode 3 trailer, we do see the Rogues working together to get tech to help Red Death make this time machine to time travel potentially. And I'm wondering if that impossible choice is that maybe someone's at risk, someone's in danger, or the city is in danger, something like that, and Barry has to give up a piece of tech or some sort of item that will help Red Death in their cause, but it's in order to save either a bunch of people or someone on Team Flash, maybe Iris, whatever it might be, something like that, which Barry doesn't really want to do, but he's going to have to, either that person will die, so it could be something like that. But when you think impossible choice, you think something that he knows shouldn't be the case or shouldn't happen. And for some reason, time travel, I've seen people talking about that. I just don't know if they will tap in to the time travel side of things, at least at this portion of the season, because we know it's going to be playing into the backstory for the season. So I just don't know if that would be the case. But I guess it is a wait and see. But we do have the power being out in Central City, and I think most people would probably assume it's the same thing, but it's Red Death, I guess, using a lot of the power within Central City to power up their time machine that they are building. I think that was a thing in season 1 that they needed some stuff because of Star Labs, their power grid, and that was even brought up again last episode when they needed to use it to power up that CRC pod, the thing that Caitlin went into last season that they were going to use again on that Snow, or I guess now Keone character. So they need to have it in Star Labs to, for the power grid and all that stuff. So maybe it's something along those lines, and that's why Central City's power is all gone. But then again, maybe Red Death needs it to be complete darkness for some stuff to go down. Who knows? Could be a combination of things. But of course, it does mention the Rogue Squad. Now, this is what I guess most people are calling the meme team, which is Goldface, your the Hotness, Chillblaine, all that stuff. And unfortunately, Pied Piper's chucked in there because I don't think Pied Piper deserves to be in that group. I think Pied Piper's a better character than that, but I guess they're calling it the Rogue Squad rather than the Rogues that we have. But then again, by this episode, maybe the Rogues are gone. I don't know. Maybe the Rogues are helping Barry. I don't know. And that's what they're calling the Rogue Squad now. I'm not too sure. Now, this does mention Iris being visited by an old friend. Now, I did not see anyone really give too much of a good theory as this, because Iris doesn't really have any friends on the show, from what we know. At least one that would be classified an old friend. A lot of people just think it might be Sue, because it's very important to remember that Iris is trying to build that Coast City department, and I think that's going to play out in one of the episodes following this 2-parter, because we know that Dreamer or Nia Now from Supergirl is coming in, and I think that episode involves them going to Coast City to maybe scout out this new, Central City citizen media outlet and stuff like that. So I think maybe it's Sue coming in. I wouldn't classify Sue as an old friend. They've known each other for 2 years, but I guess maybe in the context of the show and us not really seeing Iris have any friends, then it might be Sue. But then again, it could be someone like Linda Park, who would be an old friend from season 1, but I don't think it's her, but it could easily be. Now, we know that Javicia Leslie is going to be on the show as Batwoman. We know that Batwoman's going to be in the show. That was seen in set photos. So it could be her. The only issue is that in the context of Earth Prime in this timeline, we don't know that we haven't seen anything or even had any reference to Iris being friends with Ryan Wilder, let alone even the Flash knowing Ryan Wilder. So I don't think that's going to be the case. If it is, it doesn't really make much sense, but maybe that's what they do. Who knows? But next up, let's go over the synopsis, or as I said, description for the Red Death story finale, which is The Mask of the Red Death Part 2. As the Red Death wreaks havoc on Central City, Barry and Iris come up with a plan and turn to Cecile for help. Barry is faced with what he thinks was his greatest mistake and the Red Death's greatest success. Thawne wants to help Team Flash, but Barry can't risk losing her. Joe gives Barry a very much needed pep talk. Now, quick on that last thing, I know pep talk is annoying, but it's a Joe Barry one, so it's probably going to be good, so just want to get that out of the way. But firstly, Barry and Iris turn to Cecile for help with Red Death, currently wreaking havoc on Central City. Now, it would be annoying if this is like a main plot line, because I don't think a lot of people want Cecile really on the show and sort of like impeding with certain things. Like if there's one constant thing I see people complaining about, it is Cecile. But I'm going to assume this might be just because of like her powers, like the mental stuff, and maybe being able to read into Red Death and everything like that. I'm assuming that's what it is, because that's like the main thing you turn to Cecile for, a bit of a plot hole or plot device to sort of like read someone's mind and all that stuff. So that's probably what it is. But I'm very curious, like with Red Death wreaking havoc on Central City, I wonder whether the time machine thing just fails. Like Barry stops that in part 1. And then that just gives Red Death, like, I guess, like the free reign to just go around and being an absolute menace, killing people, just messing with Barry's life around Central City because the time machine thing doesn't work. That would be very interesting. But then it does say that Barry's greatest mistake is also Red Death's greatest success. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm wondering, does it go back to last episode where Barry faces that impossible choice, maybe has to give up something in turn for someone else not to die, or for Central City to face consequences, or whatever it is. It's very interesting, but it sounds like it's already happened. It sounds like it's happened already, potentially on the show, because Barry has to, face his greatest mistake, which means it's something in the past and something that maybe he's thought about or whatever it might be, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be something that happens in the episode, but it could be something that happens between now, before we've watched episode 3 and this 5th episode. So it could happen in episode 3 or episode 4, which could potentially be that time machine stuff and maybe giving stuff up and all that stuff. I said stuff a lot of times then. But also there's one aspect of this storyline which I just have a feeling it's going to play into it. Though it hasn't really been touched upon yet, I just have this feeling it's going to play into it. And a lot of people seem to side with this theory, and that's Reverse Flashpoint. I just have a feeling that Red Death is attached to Reverse Flashpoint in some way, because Eric Wallace also hinted at, like, it was in the middle of last season, but it's never really been touched upon since that point, that Armageddon was going to have more consequences leading into the future, not necessarily just the other parts and later parts of season 8. So I just wonder if it is this point. Now, whether it was the intention when they were doing Armageddon to then lead into this Red Death thing, that's another question, but it just wouldn't surprise me if that Reverse Flashpoint timeline, where both Eobard and Barry left from, just became corrupted or whatever it might be, and there's consequences that come out of that. Now, in regards to how someone could then travel to our timeline and everything like that, that's another question. That's for the show to explain, but it would not shock me in the slightest if it's something like that. But of course, that's a wait and see, and I think we might get a hint in this week's 3rd episode if that is going to be something that's really happening, if there is some sort of connection to the reverse Flashpoint. But we know from the end of episode 2 that apparently the Flash disgraced Red Death, so there's going to have to have been some interaction there. But what could it have been? Because Barry, we've never seen him interact with this Red Death or anything like that. So that should, I guess, somewhat be hinted at in this week's episode, hopefully. But next up, Thawne wants to help in, what's happening with Team Flash. But Barry maybe thinks that she isn't ready. So it makes you wonder, does that mean like her powers will be revealed? Because I think she's going to have different powers. I know in like the last episode, in episode 2, she was sort of like touching the window almost like as if she could feel the weather. So I do wonder if she's going to be like an elemental sort of powered character where it's more like tapped into nature. And also I think Danielle Panabaker said in an interview that this character is very similar to her character from Sky High, who was almost like a poison ivy type character, but maybe this is just being connected to nature as a whole. So the water, the earth, the plants, the rain, everything like that. Maybe that's what she's tapped into. So that could be a pretty interesting character to use. It's almost like a mixture of Weather Witch with Killer Frost with like a bit of like a Mother Nature, like, you know, I guess like poison ivy type thing. That sounds pretty cool if that's what they're doing. But of course, this finale, this two-part, it's all about Red Death. So I'm very curious about what they're going to do with Red Death. Will Red Death die? Will we see Red Death do some deathing, some killing, if you want to put it leading up to this point? I just have this underlying worry, and I might just be overthinking and it's not going to happen. I just have this underlying fear that Eric Wallace is going to make Red Death a sympathetic character, when I think it should be the complete opposite. There should be no sympathy there or anything else. Red Death is just a megalomaniac, very egotistic, everything like that. I think that's what Red Death should be, but I have this feeling that Eric Wallace is going to make her sympathetic because it is a character, you know, what led to it's going to be like a character that we're familiar with from this earth. I don't know. And like he said, there's going to be like a connection there with Iris. And like, why would there be a connection there if it's not going to be sympathetic in some way? So that's my only worry. I might be completely wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong, but it's just a worry I have going into it. And I think it's a worry that I've seen a lot of people express as well. So let's wait and see. But fingers crossed it turns out well, because Red Death has been a character that a lot of people have been waiting for. I haven't been overly cared about it, but I'm just curious to see if that show would do it. But a lot of people have been excited for Red Death to show up. So hopefully it lives up somewhat to the excitement levels that people that have been looking forward to Red Death showing up have. So fingers crossed. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all the stuff that we went over in this video. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.